Observer's Log, supplemental. Welcome back to From 60,000 Light Years, a Star Trek podcast. I am one of your observers, Jay Clark, better known as Jay Clark 787. Your other observer, Eric Berry, better known as Trekkie B47. The holiday gifts continue. We just having some conversations with Star Trek fans all around as we go through our observation of all the different iterations of this franchise. And as we mentioned during a recent look back at Discovery, we kind of had some questions and wanted to have a deeper conversation around that. And so we are grateful to be joined on this supplemental episode by Kris from This Week in Queer History. We're going to talk about his love for the franchise and Star Trek and get into who knows what. You know, these conversations just go off the cuff. So first off, Kris, welcome to the bridge. Thank you for joining us here on From 60,000 Light Years. How are you, good sir?
Good. Thank you for having me. Yes, good to be here. Wrapping up the year, but really happy that we're here and that I've got so much to look forward to. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Nice. So Eric, I think we'll take this one just like we did the last one, but the first entry door is Kris, what is your association, love, fandom, history with Star Trek? Like, where are you in this thing?
Yeah, so I have loved all iterations, but I really found Star Trek with the Next Generation. And that's not true, actually. I did the Wrath of Khan, actually, the movie, Wrath of Khan. I remember seeing that as a young kid, and just that really opened the world of sci-fi, I think, to me, as far as space travel. But that was probably what introduced me. And then Next Generation is what really I would come home to after high school, a day of classes, and that's what I would be looking forward to. And I think it was because around that time too, I was figuring out my sexuality. I was still very closeted. But there was something about, and sci-fi definitely does this. Mm-hmm. It creates space for possibility. And also you look at where these shows, where these characters are at, you would not be able to get to these places without people working together to build upon knowledge and all of the cool tech that they have. You would not be able to have that unless we as a people, we as society figure out our shit. I don't know if I can swear on that.
Okay, absolutely. Let it fly, sir.
Okay, where we could, so it's like that's what I found is just a world that had really figured things out, and we were able to go beyond the stuff that we're dealing with right now in our world. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's that possibility, that hope, that inspiration, that guiding rule that just was inherent in Next Generation and with Jean-Luc. So I think that's where I really just latched on. And then that became my ritual. I would just really look forward to the next episode and coming into that. So that's where I fit into this world. And I watched others, Deep Space Nine, I came into, Voyager, Discover. I watched them, but there was something always about Next Generation that just felt very poetic, regal, and there was just an authority to it that I was looking for around that time of my life. So
I actually just watched one of your videos today, how queer outrage took over TV, and I noticed in the myriad of television, like TV posters, I saw the Next Generation right there, so that was nice.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that that is a big part of that too, is that in sci-fi, you're meeting all of these new races, all these alien races, all these different cultures, and coming at it with acceptance and learning how to work together. I think that was such a big part of, and has always been a part of Star Trek. And so yes, I think that there's something really inherent in sci-fi and Star Trek that lends to acceptance, learning to work together, those kind of golden rules that we want to have in our modern world.
Absolutely. That's one of the beauties of the franchise. It's like, we've seen representation is built into the franchise from day one. That's just kind of what the show was about. And the show deserves the credit we give it for what it did back in the day. Like nobody's trying to take that away, and you kind of see how that continues as it goes throughout history. TNG pushed the boundary a little more. Deep Space Nine pushed it even further. It just kind of keeps on going and going. How do you feel as a fan? And I'm just curious how even viewing some of these different iterations, representation on not just one area, but just in a lot, like the different ways you see these things kind of portrayed in that collaborative spirit. What are some of the biggest things you take away coming through the series and seeing these different portrayals, especially as we continue forward and you get to see more? The what representation means kind of changes.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's always room to grow, and I think that we're figuring it out as we go, but not being scared to have representation in different. So being able to play with gender and allowing people to fall in love with different genders, and I think that Star Trek has been really good with that, allowing characters to have that fluidity, and I think that there's a little bit more of that space in Star Trek and in sci-fi to be able to do that, because again, you look at sci-fi and you think progress, you think where we could be, what we aspire to be, and so I think that's sci-fi is just inherently that. Hopefully, and I do think that Star Trek, the writers have been really good with that, with pushing that forward. So, kind of, yeah.
Is there space where you feel they haven't done enough, or is there space where you're like, I'd really like to see some more, especially as we've kind of been in this mixed bag era where they've tried to do some new things, they've tried to push it more. Is there space where even you feel as a viewer they're like, I'd like to see some more here? Or is it you're like, yes, you're still doing good. Just where do you judge the current state of the franchise now with its track record that it's had?
Yeah, I think that, with the gay relationship that they just had on this last, the last iteration, I think is really, really cool. It was good to see that representation. It's dangerous when like the character leaves you're like, this was just going this is going great, so why don't we just keep this going like normal thing and not having a character go off of the show. So I think that there's something to I do think that they normalized it a little more, so it's just like it's just happening. It's like there's no big deal, it's not the big reveal so much, yeah, but I think that's where we need to get to more, where it's not a big reveal, a drama. It's just a natural part, and I think that they've done a pretty good job with that. I do think that and I'm not transgender, but I think that there is space for that moving forward. More characters that are transgender, just because it's in the real world, so why not have that there? So
yeah, and that was like going back to your comment of making things normalize. That was one of the things like that my wife and I noticed when Discovery first came on, and you had that kiss between Culber and Stamets, and it was just normal. They were just brushing their teeth, having a normal night. But as a viewer, you're like, wow, I haven't seen that on Star Trek, but the way that they played it, I thought was just really cool.
Yes, yeah, and that's hopefully where it can just be, where it can just live. Like that's just like where we just move forward, and so more of that, and just having it be a part of the show, just part the natural flow. Yeah.
All right, so Eric brought up Discovery. We're here. Let's have some fun real quick.
Yeah, and I'll do my best. No.
It's
because I'm not an expert. I'm not like, yeah.
Well, no. Nobody's asking for an expert. We're just fans here, and this ain't even like a hey, explain this type of thing. No, it's I had serious issues with the character use, and specifically, I'm talking like Blue, and Adir, and that whole storyline, because Star Trek made a big hub to do about, hey, we're doing this. We're doing this in a way that we've never done before. And it's like, okay. And you had reactions on all sides of the field. Some, as we knew, had panties in a fit because that's just what they do. Yes. Other people were like, yay, cheer and go, great. I got mad on the rewatch because I'm like, you had some great setups and they did nothing with the characters. in my judgment, I would just say this as bluntly as possible. It's almost like you kind of put this gay family together and then brush them off to the side, and that's kind of where they existed.
Yeah.
While the rest of Star Trek, like it wasn't being incorporated, and there were some cool possible storylines. So I'm just curious, as a member of the community,
Yeah.
in a way that we are not.
Yeah.
Throughout, like wherever you want to go, I'm just curious, like how did y'all feel? Or not? You're not here to speak for everybody but yourself.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
Yeah.
You know, one with the ways Star Trek was trying to continue pushing the boundaries on representation, and then two, just kind of with the overall pride. Because I mean, judgment. I'll speak for myself as a black. Sometimes it's like, yay, if I see something and they're including black people, I have to support it just because we're being represented. I can't be truthful about it because I don't know when we get that Mighty Night Chess. So I'm just curious with that whole hub the do that went on with everything that went on with seasons 3, 4.
Yeah.
It got left out of 5. I'm just curious where you stood as a member of these communities in what was just delivered to us as fans.
Yeah. Interestingly, and maybe this is why I didn't connect with the I wasn't drawn to it as much because I wasn't feeling that the relationship was enough, maybe. But I honestly I did tune in. I was like there. I was gonna like make sure that I was subscribed and watching, and then I kind of fell out of it for that for maybe for that storyline. I don't know, but it wasn't something where I felt like I have to tune in because of them. Those two characters. So I don't know that, and maybe that's I don't know.
I think it was the same for me too, because there was a point where my wife and I kind of checked out of Discovery too, and it wasn't just a representation thing; it was just an overall story thing.
Maybe
and
not, yeah.
you know, unfortunately, it kind of drags down what you're trying to build up if the story isn't there and if the characters aren't there.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe I was looking for something early on when I heard that they were going to have a gay couple and relationship, and I didn't have that in maybe the first season, like when it was starting and so because I don't even know, did it come out first season, second?
Well, first season you had Hugh, Stamets and Culber. They killed Culber off like 6 episodes in.
Yes.
So you got the whole kill the gays trope, and then he comes back towards the end or halfway about through season 2.
Yes.
And then you add on the 2 additional characters in seasons 3 and 4.
Yeah.
And further, but again, like for me, what really pissed me off as a Star Trek fan was you had some cool ideas possibly with the whole identity thing, with the whole, Adira and the whole memories being blocked and trills. Like we've seen a little bit of that with Jadzia and Deep Space Nine. You had this, what I viewed as a cool opportunity too. If you're going to do some stuff about discovering identity, who you are, what you be, cool.
Yes.
Perfect case to do that. And then they didn't do nothing about it, only to, in my judgment, care more about the dead boyfriend or the dead partner. Let me just be dead partner, and this dead partner has to get a body because of why? What makes them different than any other host that this person has had? It was just weird, and for me, it felt like Star Trek really had the opportunity, if you're going to jump out of there and do this, to really push the boundaries with some good quality storytelling. Even just the other night, I was watching Let This Be Your Last Battlefield, where they're being as blunt and obvious. Well, one half of my face is white, the other half is black, and the other guy's reversed, but we can't see it. But it's like blatant, but it's still kind of up here too, to where it could apply to a lot of stuff. And I feel like taking this instance, Discovery completely missed the opportunity to do something as similar in a way to speak to these types of things. For this, just hey, we did it, we're happy, let's put it on the shelf, give us a trophy because representation.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I think that what was it that lost me? I don't know. Yeah, because like why? Yeah, why wasn't I drawn into that? And maybe that it wasn't strong enough. It was lost. That storyline was lost.
So let me take it back. Something you said earlier, real quick, because I'm curious about this. Is again, as my own experience as a black man,
Yeah.
I see a person of color on the screen, and boom, that's the representation right there. That doesn't have it doesn't what people in this association are told for. Like, yes, we see it. It doesn't have to be referenced all the time, but we can see it and it's there. I am curious,
Mhm.
and please put me back in the corner, so choose whatever. With something in this realm of sexuality, if we're not talking about sexuality,
Mhm.
how do I know the representation is there? I'm curious what that looks like, because you like we start what does that representation sometimes could it look like, or what might it look like if I'm not like, hey, that person's bi, or that person likes women and they're a woman, or that person's trans, like what does that space kind of look like, especially in, like, because sci-fi could do anything, but I'm curious if we're not pointing it out, which I would judge sometimes we don't always want it pointed out, we just want to
Yes.
be there. Or is
Right.
it simply enough knowing that, hey, this person, we know this person casted was trans, that's enough?
Yeah. The trans experience maybe coming into casting, allowing that to inform. Yeah, interesting. I don't know. I think that because there are two, looking at sexuality and who you're attracted to versus gender, and like how you want to show up, how you feel you need to show up in the world, and like what is true for you. I think those are the two different worlds there too. And I think that it is important to have both in any kind of media, but sci-fi too, it's like an easier playground to have it. So I think that for me, I think like I taking it back because I know Next Generation.
Please
Oh,
do,
yeah.
yes.
Q was so ambiguous. Like you didn't know.
Yes.
Like there was this really fun energy, and he and Picard just like that. They had a spark, and yet they liked each other. They hate each other. There was play, and that was enough for me at that time to be like, oh, I love that male or whatever Q was, that
energy.
between, yeah, and this actor is male and that actor is male, so at least I could identify that. But that was exciting, and that I could imagine myself in that banter and that play between two people of the same sex. So that was kind of the sexual side of it, like that interaction of like, oh, this attraction between two characters of the same sex. And then gender and the identity thing, where you're allowed to show up as you feel you are. I think that that's also really important, and to allow. I think, yes, casting transgender individuals or non-binary people is important, because yes, that does inform acting as well, and just has that, it richens it makes the show just richer. It really makes for more interesting content, I think, and more interesting storytelling. So yeah, that's kind of a general way of me talking about that, but I think that you want to have that. You're going to have interesting things that pop up when someone reads a script. It's going to be interpreted a little bit differently if they're of a different race, different sexuality, different gender identity, and it's important. I think that can only make our stories more interesting and fun.
And I think that's something that Star Trek does best, which they can lean into more, which is allegory and making connections that aren't hitting you over the head with it.
Yeah, giving space for you to interpret the relationship, for you to give a little. So it's like this play between you and the characters. So you're like, oh, I don't quite have it figured out, and that's okay. You're still figuring it as they're figuring it out, or you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to box people in all the time. Yeah. You can just be sort of interesting and a little bit. You're unfamiliar with that character. That's okay, and I think that uncomfortability can be a good thing too, with media, with sci-fi too. That's the fun of sci-fi too, is you're seeing things that are new that you may not understand, but it opens up a little bit of space for you to explore, like, how would I feel in this moment with this new and interesting thing that they're discovering or interacting with.
What comes to mind is the whole like Bashir and Garrick thing in Deep Space Nine, and it's kind of, are they, aren't they? And it's only probably been in the last 10-15 years we've truly learned that Andrew Robinson as Garrick really kind of leaned into some things. And that's where he wanted to go. But I'm curious because I want to juxtapose that again by something you said. You said back then that was enough, especially speaking with like Picard and Q. I am curious in the year 2025, as we slowly going to head into 2026, would that be enough now?
I don't
That
think.
ambiguity space, or
Yeah.
you're looking for more. I'm just just for you
Yes.
and whatever that may be.
Yeah. I don't think that's enough anymore. And I think it's because at that time the media landscape, like breadcrumbs, you're just hungry for anything that could be. And yet what I identified in that moment and that storyline is this connection that I couldn't figure out. And so that was enough for me to put myself and sort of take what I needed from that. But I think that we can give our audiences more and allow for more development, have other figure out other problems that can arise or storyline issues, as opposed to, and yet that acting and that conflict that those two characters had can show up now, and that's still exciting and interesting between characters. But I do think that it's important that we allow characters to be fully developed now, because I think that, yeah, it's important to have gay characters, lesbian characters, trans characters. It's just yeah, it's important. And so yeah.
I hate to end up here again, Eric, because I feel like we're back to the same spot of like, can you truly do that in 10 to 12 episodes? Kris, do you feel that there's enough space in, because it's something we come back to all the time, like Star Trek is really kind of cheapened by the current media landscape in these shortened seasons where, yeah, we're used to 25, 26 episodes in a season where you had these opportunities to really kind of play in some of this ambiguity or really get into a one-off on a rando character or really deepen what we know about characters. Do you, do you really feel that's able to happen in today's landscape? And if so, like, do you have a show that you're watching now or streaming that you're like, yeah, this is one that's truly doing some great representation, and it's really kind of delivering some of the stuff that I'm looking for, even in a short 10 episode season.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think it is harder to develop side characters. So unless they're a main lead, they can have enough screen time to have the looks, to have the builds, to have the arcs shape. But I think some of our side characters, and the team, the full ensemble, it may be harder to develop that because over and yeah, we've seen this happen with streaming, is that it's just cut down. And so what we used to have, again, like what you were saying with old studio model, is 26 episodes, and that's now what, 12, 10, sometimes even less
Yeah.
episodes for these streamers. And so I do think it may be harder. I think that it might be, I think it's important, and it's not that you can just then get away with not doing it. I do think that it's possible for clever producers, writers to make sure that they are happening still, but unless it's the leads, maybe you can't fully develop, but they can be fully developed characters that interact fully, and I think that is still possible to have those side storylines happening. But I don't think that it's, it has to always serve the story that you're telling. You want to have it tell a human story. So I'm not necessarily like it has to have a LGBTQ storyline or else it's trash. I don't believe that. I do believe that there needs to be representation. I do believe that we do need to have diverse casting racially too. It's like it can't just be old white guys everywhere. it's gotta be diverse there too.
And behind the scenes too, writers, producers. I mean, there needs to be more focus on that for those stories to work their way in naturally.
Yes. And so, I do think that if and again, if you're building a cast and a crew and a team that is diverse, it will just naturally, people will bring, hopefully if it's a supportive space, people will bring themselves to the work and allow for moments to happen, whether it's like you're not necessarily main in the frame, but you're this side character over here, that you might have an interaction that then informs what, however that story, that character story arc is, that is not just the same as everyone else. So I think that's where I would come from as far as like, yeah.
And that's one of the interesting things when the video of yours that I mentioned before, you know, hearing about GLAAD and them putting out, like, their goal is just to have 10% of, like, people. And for me, that was like, wow, 10% is the bar, but it's like, even to work up to that has, you know, that's a goal, just to move the bar up a little more.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. GLAAD is such a great organization. They've really done amazing work over the years trying to just bring representation to media. And I mean, like, LGBTQ, just making sure that that's a part of the team, part of the storylines, part of the world. Just being like, this is the real world, so why not represent it on stage and on the screen? And so I think that just talking about it helps. I think GLAAD has done an amazing job with their awards, with the reports that they put out, where they literally look at productions and say, okay, how many people were queer on your set, on your team, in your production, how many cast, crew, whatever. And that helps. It just helps. Talking about something helps and brings awareness that then we can say, okay, oh wow, we're only at 2%. Let's try to bring that up. Let's try to, you know, and so just awareness is the way to make any change. And there are steps that you have to take afterwards, action, but it's without that awareness, you don't know where you stand, you don't know what you need to do. So I think that's where GLAAD has done such great work. And I think, again, that, like, I don't know why science fiction has always pushed it further. Like, you know, with the most recent Doctor and Doctor Who, extremely queer, like that, like pushed it. A Black, queer, just like really amazing, pushing it. You know, he only lasted for 2-3 seasons, and you know, it could have been him that he was at. You know, there's like rumbles either way that we don't know. You know, he might have had a project, it might not have worked out. He wanted more. Who knows? Who knows? But he was a really incredible fun for me. He was a really fun Doctor. He was like a really just wild, like, played off of the whole world of and what the Doctors that came before, but then made it his own. So I think that kind of a spin is so fun, because the world of Doctor Who, much like Star Trek, is rich and vast, and you have just the mythology is so vast that you can play. And so when you throw in this interesting new character in that mythology of the world, what happens? How does this character interact? What, you know, it just adds some fun stuff to see, and I think that's where you get some really cool sparks. So
it was I love that Doctor, and he was great. I'm sad that, you know, we only got such limited time with him, but it just makes the universe more fun, and it puts a new spin on it. It's a new perspective.
Yeah, because I mean, like, if Star Trek had stayed on Earth forever, like that's what it was, just on Earth, and every one of us human, it would be
Earth Trek. No,
yeah, Earth Trek, exactly. I mean, can you imagine? And that, like, even if they had a deck down there and they had a holodeck, and it was just all Earth. Like, where is the fun? Where's the excitement? Where's the what we want? What we want is to see something new, and Star Trek has always been able to do that, push it just a little bit beyond. And so, I think that, again, why I love sci-fi.
And I think definitely the best Trek is when it knows what its other is. Like, we've talked in some of our reviews, and like the best Trek is when it's like it knows, okay, this is a different perspective in this familiar story. Yes, we're in space encountering strange people. Okay, yep, every series is doing that. But the ones where they clearly define, like, okay, this is the different perspective we're having here. Yeah, kind of like you said, it opens up the magic. Like, okay, yeah, we've seen this problem 5, 6, 7 times. What's the different way we about to look at it here?
Yeah.
And yeah, opening the door up to different viewpoints, different perspectives, even as you mentioned, Eric, writers, producers, just to be like, hey, we can change this a little bit and tell the same old story, but now we've got a different way of whether issues or different opinions, whatever it may be that yeah can allow you to play in this sci-fi world, which lets you do anything. So why not? Why
Yeah.
not do anything in it?
Yeah.
What you kind of made me think is we I don't want to sound like I'm shitting on Star Trek and representation, because I do think there have been some great examples. We haven't
Yeah.
touched those series yet lately, because those are forthcoming from this point, but like I think of Lower Decks, like Jen is the girlfriend. It wasn't like, hey, it was just the character existed and that relationship was there. And then I'm even thinking like Prodigy. Zero is non-binary, and it's just and has these great moments, and they play with some things. So it's still doing a good job, and still has some great moments. But yeah, that discovery just kind of popped out as a stinker, and was like some missed opportunities. I think that's what's really sad. It's just there was missed opportunities for some great storytelling,
Yeah.
as you've been alluding to.
Yeah.
But
Let me-
one of the things I did like, going back to what you pointed out between Q and Picard, because recently I watched season 2 of Picard, and I love how the story built towards the end, and it was just that like nice, male embracing male, like we recognize that we love each other in the end, like, and it's about life and celebrating life. Even though Q was dying, he realized. Spoiler alert, if anyone hasn't seen season 2 of Picard yet.
You've had your time.
But with Q dying and recognizing that, yeah, Picard was my favorite person, and he wanted to go on that final journey with him, which I thought was very poignant to their story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Chris, tell us a little bit about what you do with This Week in Queer History. Because for me, from what I've seen about it, it's kind of like I'm getting the education about some of the behind the scenes stuff of a community that again, I'm just not a part of and wouldn't know about. Almost like what we try to teach some people about Black history in this country. That's what I feel like you're doing with This Week in Queer History. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing with this this educational experience that you're putting out on these streets.
Yeah. No, I think it's just it's important to inspire and bring hope. And that's what This Week in Queer History is all about. I grew up in Utah, very conservative, Mormon everywhere. I was, my life was Mormon growing up. And I also was gay, but closeted, and didn't know how I fit in. And so when the world was kind of getting intense, a year, 2 years ago, and it was looking like things were going to get really kind of gnarly for queer people coming into this year, I was like, what can I do to just throw a life ring to where I was, which was a conservative state. And I'm not going to go back to Utah to like fight the fight and try to help people like that physically, but what can I do? I'm good with, creating digital content. And I have loved queer history and queer icons, but a lot of the time it was negative and sad, and this is where somebody died, this is the plague that happened, so many people, we lost our rights here, we couldn't do this, we couldn't do that. And those things are so important to know. And yet I wanted to find the hope and the inspiration so that I could take a step forward each day myself, and as we moved through kind of like a darker time that was a little more conservative. So I just started creating content that was all about queer history. So I find icons, events that really stood up against oppression, repression, and made a change and did what they could in the time that they were in. And so, I look at icons, events, nice, light, poppy, inspirational, and try to I do get personal too in the episodes, try to connect it to real life, current, what can we do now here where we're at, take those lessons from the past, and because we stand on the shoulders of so many people, and try to just find the strategies. And so that's what This Week in Queer History is all about. And I'm learning about people and places and events that I did not know about growing up. And so I think that's also really empowering for me, I'm finding community too. So many people across the country will comment and talk about that they knew this event or they didn't know about it. And then, but I'm also hearing people in their 70s. I'm like, good for you for being on YouTube doing your thing, writing comments. But really powerful to hear some of these older generations connecting with what I'm talking about, and they're saying, I was there at that march. I was there at that candlelight. I remember voting. And so that's really powerful too, to have that connection through time. So it's been a really cool. I've been doing it just for a year, and it's been a really cool journey, and I'm excited to keep going this next year.
What's something that just because you mentioned like some of the stuff you do know, some of the stuff you don't. What's something that you've come across and you're just like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, wow. I didn't know we I don't want to phrase it like this, but I didn't know we were involved with that. Or I didn't know, like something that really took you away, like, wow.
Yeah, I keep coming back. There is a tomb in Egypt for Neon Khnum and Khnum Hotep. They were the manicurists doing but stereotypes now, doing nails and hair, but these two guys that have their own tomb, and they are represented by touching noses, and that was strictly used only for people who were intimate together. And so this is like, so scholars and archaeologists are like, have written a lot about it, and so they think they were the first recorded couple. So 5,000 years ago, in the pyramids, you're like, that's wild, and that's the kind of history that finding that and saying, oh, of course we've been around for a long time, but that's cool to see it and hear it, and you can see the actual pictographs that they have of the two of them in this tomb, and it's just like, oh yeah, it's representation through history, and I think that's important. So that was something that was really cool to learn. Like there was a recorded wedding in 1061, two guys in Spain, which was really cool. Like to hear, I'm like, that's really cool. They like recorded it. It was fine with their community. So it's like, this has been happening for thousands of years, and communities have not cared, or they've celebrated it. So I think that's when you start to feel like, oh, this pendulum that seems to swing, it feels like, oh, it's so conservative, or we're losing rights. It's like, no, it will come back towards justice again. That ever swinging, it might swing a little bit too far to the right, but it's going to come back, because ultimately we just want people to be happy, live their lives, love who they want to love, and support other people just to live their lives. So I think that's where the queer history is really exciting for me, to find that connection through time, and community too through time.
And I know I'm learning a lot too, as Jason introduced me to your channel as we invited you on, and I really liked the one that you did about the travel guide, the book that saved us. And I mean, and it makes sense, like when you think about it, like pre-internet days, and when being gay was like frowned upon, and this time in our recent history, and to find out that a resource like that even existed, it was fascinating to me.
Yeah, the Damron guide. Yeah,
yes,
so Bob Damron, like incredible. But if you think about it, before the internet, which we all love and we use just every second of the day, you think, what do I want tonight? I want Chinese food. Okay, tap, 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 and there it is. If you were gay and you were like, I feel alone. I don't know anybody. I'm in my little town, but I'm actually going to go to the next biggest town next weekend, and I would really like to just be around people that
tap in.
Tap in. And so Bob Damron, he had toured America, late 1960s, or maybe 1960, I can't remember the dates, 1963 I think, but he created the Damron guide. So he just went city by city, wrote down in his little notebook, like, this is a gay bar, this is a gay friendly coffee shop, this is what he put it on a map, and then he put it in a book. And that book became a lifeline for so many gay people before the internet, when they were closeted maybe, or they couldn't tell anybody in their town. That was their one key to finding people and to finding community. And so, yeah, it really connected, and I think it allowed community to grow. And even I, when I went on a New York trip in high school, I knew I was gay. It was like between my junior and senior year, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go to New York. And so I remember sneaking down to the bookstore and like pulled it open, jotted down a bunch of little notes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna do this. And I just like I didn't go into them, but I just walking the spaces and walking and being like, wow, there are gay people here. Wow, okay. And so I think that's the stuff that I'm finding with the getting into queer history and finding these moments in people is like the excitement that I get and the cool stories that are there.
I'd be curious to see if there was any connection between that and the Green Book. Was he inspired by the Green Book, or
I bet more than anything, because as always, Black people have always led the charge.
Well, not that way, but it's just like there's a lot of similarities in the way that underprotected is the word that's coming to mind, but just communities under threat find ways to identify things of safety via a variety of ways.
I think but I'm saying like the queer community owes so much to the Black community because civil rights, of course, happened. That was the doorway for a lot of the LGBTQ movement. That was the next big movement after civil rights. So. I think that blueprint of that book then allowed for the Damron. I think, can't say because I didn't have any connection.
Oh no, yeah, it's just like I say, it's when he mentioned that, I was like, just a little same thing, but just different. Again, kind of like the Star Trek, different viewpoint. Okay, here's yours, same purpose, but
and so valuable, right. And it's just an incredible tool. So
So I'm curious, because I just had a picture come in my mind. Is you're talking about history, and we're kind of talking about a way of rediscovering. Is it important to tag everything? Because there are some who would be like, we don't need to know. But it's interesting because you couldn't necessarily identify strongly like that in the past. So is there a purpose in some of this history to be like, no, we need to properly identify where this was? Or is it simply just sometimes it is what it is? Like I find myself in old TV shows, like even hearing like, oh yeah, that actor was gay. Oh, I would have had no idea. Never knew. Yeah. Okay. Not that it matters, but it's just interesting. It's almost like we got all these tags. Does everything need to be tagged to hell and beyond so that we know, okay, yep, this was gay, white, football movie, whatever the tags may be. But so every descriptive thing to be like, yep, okay, this was, all these things went into this. Or is it simply just, it was what it was. We don't need to tag all that. As you kind of rediscovering this history, where's that kind of balance sometimes sit?
Yes. Okay. So yes, this is good. Let's get into it. I think that in a perfect world, in our sci-fi world that we move into, I don't think that it would be, or we will be. Well, but I think that it's so important because for that person out there who does not have someone to look at and look up to, they may feel without and alone. I think it's important to say like, oh yes, I am this, because that other person out there might be like, that's me too. That's me too. So I think that it might be hard. It might be a lot, but I think it helps. I think it allows people to find connection more than, because when you are other and you see, if you're just like a 3% of something in the world and you see another 3%, you're like, oh man, that's cool. I'm not alone. So I think it is important. I think it is important now. I think if we were in a perfect world where it didn't matter and everyone was like, yeah, do your thing. You can do whatever. You can like crochet and Chinese and that guy over there, or whatever you want. That would be, I don't think we would need it. But I don't think we're there. And so that's why I think it is important to kind of push a little bit in the other way where it's like, let's say the things that we all are so that someone else can be like, oh, me too. I think that's why I think it's important. It may be exhausting sometimes. Again, it might be like, why you gotta bring that up? Why you gotta say it again? And or why is that gotta even be a part of the storyline? Because to somebody else, that storyline is the most important storyline they're ever gonna see, and without it, they will still be alone or without. And so that's what I would say is that's why it's important now. Maybe, maybe in the future, maybe it won't be, but yeah.
We appreciate you, Kris. Please let them know where they can get in touch with you. Let them know where to find This Week in Queer History. Please expand
Yeah,
your audience, grow your family.
awesome.
Let
Yeah.
them know so that they can get in touch and discover, rediscover, relearn, whatever it may be that can come up in the learnings. Let them know.
Yeah, please, please, please. On YouTube, This Week in Queer History. Also, website This Week in Queer History. I read every comment. I respond to every comment on there. I really care what people think and how they feel about the each video. And I'm covering some big things that everybody's gonna heard of before, and some things that are like smaller. And I'm really trying to diversify the content. So I really want to be a place that's like diverse in queer history. And that's hard sometimes because I'm not a lesbian, I'm not trans, but I'm trying to at least pull some of that in. So This Week in Queer History on YouTube and the website as well.
Once
And then
again,
Instagram and Twitter.
it's all the same. It's all the same, pretty much.
It's all the same. Yeah. So
Makes it easy to find. Well, once again, Kris, we appreciate you for beaming aboard and spending some time with us here on the spaceship to talk about representation in Trek. We went all over the place, but that's what we do. We find a door, and it's just about letting the conversation flow. You've definitely got two fans here, and we look forward to you taking us on an educational journey because, again, it's new to us. We show us all. We are Star Trek fans. It is all about infinite combinations and infinite possibilities. So please continue to expand our minds. But for all those out there, I will edit that. Whoo, tongue tied. For all those out there currently who have spent some time with us tonight or this evening, this afternoon, whenever you have listened, we appreciate you. Thank you. Like, share, subscribe. Join the crew as we continue our voyage from 60,000 light years through all of the current 60 years of Star Trek that are out as we head on to that glorious 60th birthday coming up in 2026. Up next, yes, we are finally going to get to Star Trek Lower Decks probably, so we'll see when that drops. But until then, check out some of the other reviews, Discovery, Deep Space Nine, the movies. They are all there for you. Spend some time with it after you check out This Week in Queer History. But until next time, live long and prosper.